Hello, UCAR. Peter Christensen here, coming to you from the CEO's desk. We're going to talk about a new form today. It's always an exciting day when a new form drops from the UAR. We got 4. We're only going to cover 1 today, and then in another video, probably next week, I'll cover 3, the other 3. But this one, I think, is the most, probably the most called for out of the 4, and the most intriguing. So we're going to talk about this specifically. It's the appraisal addendum. So we all know what was going on. Offers were coming in above list price, and then they'd have language saying, hey, if it doesn't appraise, we're still willing to pay something above the list price, the appraised value. And the language was all over the place. We've talked about this in different videos, but it was troubling. So UAR Forms Committee got together, said, let's address this issue, and knocked out this form. And it's exciting. It's a good one. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what this form does. So the appraisal addendum. So right in section 1, buyer's appraisal clause. It says appraisal guarantee. So it basically says in the event that it appraises for less than the purchase price is established by the REPSI in the contract. That's what we've agreed to pay as buyer and seller. It appraises for less than the purchase price, but more than, and then there's a blank, and buyer gets to put in a number there. More than, and it's called the appraisal floor. Then buyer's going to agree to pay the purchase price. The purchase price will not be reduced. Buyer will pay the difference between the appraised value and the purchase price in cash at settlement. And then it says the terms of this amend the REPSI, section 8.2 of the REPSI. Well, how does it amend the REPSI? Well, let's look at section 8.2. That's the appraisal condition, where it says in 8.2a, buyer's right to cancel. If it appraises for less than the purchase price, the agreed upon purchase price, buyer can cancel. Well, now we're saying, it has to appraise for less than the appraisal floor, not the purchase price now, to give the buyer the right to cancel. Okay. And then 1b of the appraisal addendum, buyer's right to cancel, which says if the appraised value is less than the appraisal floor, buyer can cancel according to the section 8.2a of the REPSI. So it goes back to your appraisal condition, provide a copy of the appraisal, and then you can cancel. So a little confusing. Let's walk through a hypothetical. Let's say there's a list price of $400,000. So buyer and seller agree upon the purchase price of $450,000. So buyer's trying to outbid the competition. Not unusual right now. So they go to $450,000 and they go under contract. Well, buyer still needs to get financing. Is still worried that they might not be able to cover the difference between the financing they can get and the purchase price, because they don't know what the appraisal is going to come back for. They probably think it's not going to get up to $450,000, but might get close. So what they do is they set a number. They say, well, we can cover this much. If we can't get the loan to cover that much, the full price, then we can come in with this much extra cash to make it work. So let's say they put in 1.a of the appraisal addendum $430,000 is their appraisal floor. So they're saying if it appraises for more than $430,000, buyer will make up the difference. Okay, so if it appraises for $440,000, what is the purchase price? It's still $450,000. Why? Because nothing in this addendum modifies the purchase price. It's still $450,000. It's just saying buyer agrees to still pay the $450,000, even though it appraised for less than the purchase price in the contract. Buyer still agrees to pay the full purchase price of $450,000. Okay, so what if it appraises for $431,000? So just right at that appraisal floor. Still, the price is $450,000, and buyer agrees to pay $450,000. They're just going to have to come up with that $19,000 difference that their lender might not come up with. And what if it appraises for $425,000? Okay, now we've got a situation where it dips below the appraisal floor. Now remember, it was listed at 400, so this could happen, right? It might appraise at right around 400. So it appraises for $425, still above list price, but below contract price and below appraisal floor. Well, then Section 1B of the appraisal addendum kicks in, which says buyer has the right to cancel according to 8.2a, the terms in 8.2a of the REPSI, which is the appraisal condition. Okay, so now buyer can still cancel. What's the purchase price, though? It's still $450. It's still $450. Nothing in this addendum modifies the purchase price. Could the buyer and seller agree to modify it? Let's say buyer says, I'm just $5,000 short. Would you be willing to come down to $445? And seller says, we can do that. Great. That's another addendum altering the purchase price. But this addendum does not do that automatically, okay? So why is it important? Couldn't the buyer just use the finance contingency anyway? Potentially, right? If they can't get financing to work out, then and it's conditioned on finance, then yeah, that's available for the seller. It was always available, or sorry, the buyer. It was always available for the buyer. But big difference is there might be money in 8.3. That's the place where you can put that money. Where if I cancel after due diligence, but before finance, and I use the finance contingency, I give up this much money. So a savvy seller may say, I'll accept it with that appraisal addendum, but I want you, let's say there's $10,000 earnest money in there. I want $5,000 of that to go hard after due diligence. That way, if it's within that window, buyer, you still have to buy it, and you're not going to bail based off of finance. Or if you do, then I get X amount of money still, because that was in 8.3. So a lot of tools able to help buyers and sellers sort it out in this crazy market. Hopefully this makes sense. I think this is the best approach I've seen out of all the different versions of that appraisal contingency that I've heard floated out there. I think this is the best approach. It's simple. It doesn't overcomplicate things. And it allows the parties to make it clear. It's not going to change the purchase price. It's going to allow for the buyer to have that leeway to still purchase it within a window, but still cancel if it is not within that window. So it's probably more complicated than it needs to be in my explanation, but hopefully that helped. If it did not, leave me a comment saying, Peter, you confused me way more than necessary. And, maybe I'll take another crack at it. Remember, this is not legal advice. This is legal information only. If you need specific legal advice, contact your attorney. And thanks for tuning in. Look forward to the next video where we will hit the other new forms.